It begins with silence. Not the calm kind, but the charged, suspended silence that lives at 20,000 feet, where sunlight burns white and the horizon curves like the edge of eternity. A silver shape cuts through the Pacific sky, twin engines screaming in perfect harmony, contrails curling like claws behind it. The man inside is calm, focused, and utterly alone. His name is Richard Ira Bong, and before this war ends, he will become the deadliest fighter pilot in American history. But for now, he's just a farm boy from Wisconsin, with his hands steady on the controls, and his heart set on something higher than glory. He was born where winters bit hard, and skies went on forever. A place where boys learned to shoot before they learned to shave, and where dreams took shape in the sound of a distant engine. Bong's world was small, but his eyes were always on the horizon. He didn't crave fame or fortune. He craved the feeling of flight, the freedom of it, the purity of speed. When the world caught fire in 1939, he was still that quiet, wide-eyed kid. But war has a way of finding those who can fly. In 1941, as the storm swept toward America, Bong answered the call, joining the Army Air Corps Aviation Cadet Program. From the first day, his instructors knew there was something different about him. Where others struggled, Bong seemed to merge with the machine, every control an extension of his body. He didn't just fly, he danced with gravity. But there was a restlessness in him too, the kind that either destroys a man or makes him a legend. Stationed at Hamilton Field, California, he met the aircraft that would define his life. The Lockheed P-38 Lightning. It was unlike anything the world had seen. A twin-boomed, twin-engine monster that looked more like science fiction than reality. Fast, lethal, and unforgiving. It was a plane that demanded respect and punished arrogance. Bong fell in love instantly, and that love almost got him thrown out. Reports, cleaned up and filed away, spoke of unauthorized aerobatic displays. The truth was far wilder. He flew that P-38 through San Francisco like it was his own backyard. He roared down Market Street so low pedestrians could see the rivets on the wings. He looped the Golden Gate Bridge in an audacious stunt that would have ended anyone else's career. When they dragged him before General Kenny, commander of the 5th Air Force, Bong expected the hammer to fall. Kenny was known for his discipline and zero tolerance for showboating. But when he looked into Bong's eyes, he didn't see arrogance. He saw mastery. He saw a pilot who didn't just fly on instinct, but with absolute control. So instead of grounding him, Kenny made a decision that would shape the air war in the Pacific. He would keep the boy close and forge him into a weapon. By September 1942, that weapon was unleashed over New Guinea. It was a brutal front, a place of heat and rot and death, where the jungle swallowed wreckage whole, and the air belonged to whoever could survive it. The Japanese Zero was the undisputed ruler of those skies. Light, agile, flown by veterans hardened through years of combat over China and the Pacific. Against them, the Americans were green, undertrained, and outmatched. On paper, Bong didn't stand a chance. But paper doesn't fly. The P-38 had something no Zero could touch: speed, climb, and concentrated firepower. All of its guns, 4 50 calibers and one 20mm cannon, sat in the nose. It meant Bong didn't have to aim for convergence. He could fire straight ahead and unleash a storm of destruction. He studied his enemies the way a hunter studies prey. He watched how they turned, how they climbed, how they tried to lure him into slow, spiraling dogfights where the zero was king. He never took the bait. Bong created his own doctrine, one built on energy, discipline, and patience. Stay high, dive fast, strike once, and never linger. He used the lightning's engines to climb above the fight, then dropped like an executioner, releasing a precise, devastating burst before disappearing back into the clouds. It was clean, it was deadly, and it was entirely his own. His first kills came quickly, and soon the quiet kid from Wisconsin had become a phantom of the sky. Japanese pilots began reporting sudden, high-speed attacks from above, a twin-tailed devil that struck and vanished. The name stuck. The fork-tailed devil. On his P-38 he painted the name of his sweetheart, Marge, and it became both a good luck charm and a warning. For the Japanese it meant death. For the Americans, hope. By 1943, Bong was an ace, then a double ace, then something rarer, a living legend. He fought not for medals or headlines, but for the bombers lumbering through enemy fire below. His precision saved lives. Every enemy plane he destroyed was one less diving toward helpless crews. In July 1943, over the port of Leh, Bong faced one of the fiercest aerial battles of the Pacific War. A massive formation of Japanese bombers, shielded by swarms of fighters, bore down on Allied troops. From the ground it looked unstoppable. But from the sun came Bong and his squadron. He didn't rush the attack. He waited, watching, calculating, commanding. Then, with a single radio call, he unleashed hell. The P-38s dove like silver predators, Bong leading the strike straight into the bomber's heart. His guns flashed once, and a Mitsubishi exploded in a sphere of fire. He didn't watch it fall. He was already climbing, already hunting the next. In minutes, the Japanese formation was in chaos. When the smoke cleared, Bong's name was already being whispered like a spell. By November, he had 21 confirmed victories, each one documented with the same calm precision in his reports. Time, altitude, result. No bravado, just facts. But war needs heroes, and America needed one badly. General Kenny pinned the Distinguished Service Cross on Bong's chest and sent him home. Suddenly, the quiet killer was on magazine covers, standing before crowds, smiling for cameras he didn't care about. He hated it. To him, the war wasn't over. It was out there, in the Pacific, where his friends were still fighting and dying. In letters to Marge, he confessed he felt useless. He wasn't a celebrity. He was a soldier who belonged in the sky. He begged to go back. And finally, Kenny said yes. When Bong returned to the Pacific in 1944, he came back not as a rookie, but as a master. His plane was upgraded to the P-38J, a faster, tougher, deadlier version with improved engines and hydraulically boosted controls that made it more responsive in high-speed combat. In his hands, it was perfection. By then, the Japanese Air Force was running on fumes, veterans gone, replacements barely trained. Against Bong, it wasn't even fair. He had evolved his tactics to something almost mathematical. He could judge angles and speeds by instinct, line up deflection shots so perfectly that his bursts lasted less than a second. His hit rate was off the charts. Intelligence officers studied his gun camera footage and found that he wasted almost nothing. To him, dogfighting wasn't chaos. It was geometry. He turned battle into art. Then came Balikpapan, October 1944, a mission to escort bombers over Borneo's oil refineries, deep in enemy territory. The Japanese threw everything they had into the sky. Midway through the fight, Bong's P-38 was hit. His right engine exploded into flame. Alarms screamed. Any sane pilot would have turned for home. Bong stayed. Feathering the ruined prop, he fought on a single engine, outnumbered and outgunned, until he scored another kill, then limped home across miles of open ocean, his plane barely holding together. When he landed, the Lightning was riddled with holes, one engine dead, the airframe warped. Ground crews called it a miracle he survived. Bong called it just another day. By December, he had reached the impossible. 40 confirmed victories. 40 enemy aircraft destroyed. No American pilot had ever come close, and none ever would again. MacArthur himself ordered Bong grounded. He was too valuable to lose. His last combat mission, on December 17th, was quiet and uneventful, as if the skies themselves knew they had to let him go. He returned home to parades and honors, including the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest award for valor, presented by General Kenny himself. Photographers captured the moment, but Bong looked uncomfortable in every shot. The cameras could never capture the truth, that he didn't see himself as a hero, only as a pilot who did his job and brought his men home alive. In February 1945, he married Marge, the girl whose name had ridden with him through the clouds. For a while, it seemed the war was finally letting him live. But Bong was a man who couldn't stay grounded. When the Army asked him to test America's first jet fighter, the Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, he didn't hesitate. Designed by Clarence Kelly Johnson, the same genius who created the P-38, the P-80 was the future. Smooth, sleek, and powered by pure jet thrust. No propellers, no drag, just speed. Bong, the master of the piston age, was now stepping into the jet age. It was a transition no one fully understood, a new frontier where the rules hadn't been written. On August 6, 1945, the day dawned bright and clear over California. Bong climbed into the cockpit of a brand new P-80 for a routine acceptance flight. He ran through his checklist, taxied out, and pushed the throttle forward. The jet screamed down the runway and soared into the sky. A few minutes later, a mechanical failure struck. The fuel pump died. The engine flamed out. The aircraft lost power at low altitude. Bong tried to restart, but there wasn't enough time. He attempted to bail out, but the parachute never had a chance to open. The jet slammed into the ground and exploded. The man who had survived 200 combat missions, who had flown through storms of bullets and fire, was gone in an instant. He was 24 years old, and half a world away on that same day, a B-29 named Enola Gay dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The age of air combat, the kind Bong had mastered, was ending even as he died. But legends don't die. They endure. Richard Bong's 40 victories remain a record that has never been broken. Modern warfare, fought with radar, missiles, and machines that never see their enemies, will never again create men like him. His tactics became the foundation of fighter doctrine for decades. His calm precision, the standard for generations of pilots who studied his footage, his notes, his legend. General Kenny would later write that Bong's success came not from recklessness, but from its opposite, control. The boy who once looped the Golden Gate Bridge didn't conquer the sky by showing off. He conquered it by mastering it. At the Richard I. Bong Veterans Historical Center in Wisconsin, his Medal of Honor rests quietly beside a restored P-38 Lightning painted with the name Marge. Tourists walk past, whispering. But if you stand there long enough, you can almost hear it. The low growl of twin engines, the distant echo of machine guns, the heartbeat of a pilot who saw the sky not as a battlefield, but as a test of will. His story is not just about war. It's about mastery, courage, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. He was proof that greatness can come from the humblest beginnings, that a quiet man can change history with nothing but skill, patience, and steel nerves. The skies he ruled are silent now, but the legend of the farm boy who became America's ace of aces still soars above the Pacific. Untouchable, unbreakable, eternal. But before we fade out, think about this. What makes a legend? Is it the 40 kills, the medals, the headlines? Or is it the quiet courage of a farm boy who simply refused to stop climbing? If you were in that cockpit, staring down the enemy at 20,000 feet, would you have had the nerve to hold your course until the very last second? Tell me in the comments, would you have been able to fly like Richard Bong? And if stories like this remind you why history still matters, hit that subscribe button and join us, because more forgotten heroes are waiting in the skies of the past, and their stories deserve to be heard.